And in a spiritual sense, the darkest period is always the biggest growth period anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
I
like the
know when I
dark
had,
night. Yeah,
yeah, I know
it's
when
the
I had
dark
my
night of the
spiritual awakening,
soul.
it was, yeah, it was crazy. Just the worst period of my life. But then on the
Yeah.
other side of that,
What happened for you during that period of time? Was it
uh, long story short, I was in the middle of starting it. I started this business and I was working with this company that had me do certain things that I guess were against my values. And I thought there were so many things going on. You can't pinpoint it down to just one thing.
yeah,
But essentially, I just completely lost my sense of self. And
yeah.
and there were many reasons for that. Now looking back, I actually wrote a book about it. And but yeah, it was just this 9 month period where I just had no idea what was going on. I literally felt like I was on this, I was on this ride, this roller coaster that started out in the daytime, went through this little tunnel, and all of a sudden dropped,
Yes.
and just went
Yeah.
all over the place, and I couldn't see anything. And eventually, I saw this little pinhole of light, and then it started to get brighter and brighter and brighter, and then my life just got better and better and better and better. Like it just hasn't stopped getting better since then. So it's
It's
crazy.
interesting because a couple of videos back, probably about a month ago, I did a video called The Valley of Darkness, which you might enjoy listening to because it kind of spiritually explains what you just went through. And
Yeah,
that's called the awakening,
yeah.
what you've just described,
It took me
where
a
you
while to figure it
suddenly
out.
realize, yeah, you suddenly realize that the world that you're in doesn't make any sense anymore. And you go on this kind of inward journey of darkness, trying to fathom out, how do I get out of this tunnel? Where am
Mm,
I going? What's happening? Start
yeah,
to question everything.
yeah,
And then eventually you come out the other side and there's the sunlight again. And
yeah.
I did a video about 4 weeks ago actually called The Valley of Darkness. So you might like listening to that, when we
Yeah, I definitely
finish
would.
our interview, because it describes that journey that you're talking about.
Yeah. It's it's like you just don't know when you do it, when you're going through it, you have no idea what's happening. Like my life went to shit. It was the worst period of I was not earning any money.
Yeah.
I know
No.
you had some struggles as well with money. I watched one of your videos.
Yeah.
I, I'm gonna guess it was around that time that something similar happened to you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it was, yeah, just the money was, I think I was saving like $50 a month or something stupid like that. All my money was going to rent. I was working
Yeah.
a bank job. I just completely hated it.
Yeah.
I lost I had an interview with my boss, not an interview, a chat with my boss. He was like, "How are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going okay, I guess." And he's like, "You sure? You don't look like you're enjoying yourself." And I was like, "Well, maybe I'm not." And he just asked me all these questions and questions I should have known the answers to, and I couldn't tell him the answer. And at that point, I realized I had no idea who the hell I was anymore. And
No. Yeah.
and yeah, then I did the after I stopped doing the business, and then I was like, I'm just going to give myself the one thing that I know that I love, which is music. So I started taking singing lessons, and I started drumming every day, and that made me a huge difference. Things just started to get better, and maybe like 6 months later, 9 months later, I felt like a kid again. I was jumping off the
Yeah.
walls, like,
Brilliant.
and then I started finding money everywhere. I manifested a little bit over $10,000, in a really short period of time, just unexpectedly. Um, I even got a check back from the HMRC from when I lived in London. Wasn't expecting that. Like,
That's brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was insane. I finding money in a like 11-day period. I found money like 5 times, just all over the place, and there's not big amounts, but I had some big amounts to help me, reach that 10
Yeah.
over the 10K mark. But yeah, things just
Because
got
when you
better,
wake
man.
up, when you wake up and you go through that transformation, the universe sends you signs to show you that it's on
Mm.
your side.
Lots of
But
signs.
initially,
Yeah,
you have to surrender to that process. So when you're in the darkness, you're having to surrender because you don't know any other way. Because, like you said, everything that you knew for certain is falling away. You don't
yeah,
even know who you are anymore. You've said
no,
that yourself. You just
yeah,
don't even recognize yourself.
yeah,
And it's quite frightening. You kind of feel like you're going into a psychosis because you just don't know who you are. Nothing fits anymore.
yeah,
And then you have to, because of that process, you have to surrender. You have to just let the universe show you what to do. In fact, it was at that point that I actually said, well, God, if you're there, you're going to have to show me what to do now, because
right,
I'm at a loss.
yeah,
I was in a really desperate times, like you were describing. I had a daughter to to bring up, and I got to that point where I just had to say, help me. And moment when our soul kind of opens up, and it creates like a crack in our soul, if you like, if you want to look at it like a visual, you kind of break. And in that moment when you break, you don't know what's going on, you have a breakdown. The light of the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it, it comes in and it fills you. And that's when you suddenly realize, this is when you have this change of this awakening. The light comes in and it starts to change everything within you, your beliefs, just everything, your thoughts, your perspective. Because as the light comes in, it raises your vibration. And so if you think of it like going up a mountainside, you're now at a different level. The light is taking you to another level on that mountain. And so then one day you'll wake up and you'll look out and you'll think, now I understand. I had to come higher up the mountain to see what was going on. Before that, you were in the valley of darkness. But it was only when you got to that point of frustration or complete breakdown where your soul cries out, that's the point when the light can come in. It's when you surrender and you say, I can't do this anymore. Please help me. Sometimes it's dramatic, like you were talking about, and the process I went through. And for other people, it's not so dramatic as that, but it's still the same process. They might be going through life feeling like they don't want to do what they're doing anymore. They want to have a change. They're not really fulfilled. And whatever that is that's going on for them, that's still creating like a calling out from their soul for God to help them. And it's at that moment that this light comes. And it's always the light, which is wisdom, that helps us to rise up to that next level of perspective so that we can see more clearly. And then it's not over at that point, even then.
Oh, no.
So we get to the next level, and then we get another challenge. And as long as we don't go into a victim role and we say, why is this happening to me? Why does this keep happening to me? If we look at it like, oh, this is good. This is an opportunity for me to go to the next layer of the mountain so I can see even more clearly. And as long as we keep doing our internal work and we keep imagining everything like going up this mountain so we get to the top, then, our spiritual path then will just keep unfolding in a more easy and natural way. But we will keep having tests brought to us. But each time it should get not necessarily easier, but we should be able to recognize it for what it is, which is, if we want to get into university, we have to take a test at university level. Whereas if we're going into primary school, we have to take a different level test. So it's not that you're being punished, it's just that you're making progress. As long as you see that you're always making progress when these challenges arrive, then you'll find a sense of inner peace. And eventually you'll get to the top of that spiritual mountain, which is then when you connect directly to God and you have something called enlightenment. This is where you get to the top and you realize that everything is just one, that everything and everybody is just one energy. And it's that process of going into the valley of darkness and working your way up to the summit that gets you to this point of enlightenment. And then you think you've done it, David, and then you start the next journey called ascension.
Right.
So it's a never ending path.
Of course.
But it brings you a lot of peace when you understand how it's working. Of course, at the beginning, like when you were at the bank, you didn't understand what was going on, so you didn't have any peace at that point. But once you start to understand what the journey is about and you have trust in the universe, you're always at peace, because you know that no matter what happens, there's always going to be this energy there to help you, to bring you money when you need it, to bring you guidance, to help you through.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It took me a while to figure out that what had happened. It took me until 2019 when I started seeing a lot of angel numbers and things like that. When I realized that I'd had a spiritual awakening. But the first time I ever saw 1111 was a really big wake up call, actually. I turned my phone on, I think it was maybe Sunday morning at maybe 7 a.m. And I turned the phone on and it said 1111, even though it was 7 a.m. So it was really strange. And I was like, that was the first time. And I was like, I'd already heard about, 11/11, but I didn't know anything about it. I'd heard about it, because I was very early onto my journey.
Yeah,
When that
yeah,
happened, I was like, I just go, okay, but that's really weird. I noticed it, and I was like, and I kind of just didn't think anything of it. And then I started seeing them maybe 3 or 4 months later, like a lot more, like all
yeah.
the time. Mm.
So when you start to wake up, you start to become aware of the signs that the universe is sending you. So, like you said, you get number synchronicities,
Yeah.
or you might get messages come to you through different people that just sort of come into your life, and they'll say something to you which has really profound meaning for you. And you might just have been stood on the bus stop with them, but this is the way that the universe gets its information to you. And once you start waking up, you start seeing signs and symbols and hearing information in all directions. And it's
Hmm.
then that you start to get the faith. You start to realize you are being looked after. And so you don't have to go into that valley again, because you now know that every time you see a number synchronicity, or you hear something from somebody who's giving you a positive message, that's the universe looking after you. And for some of us, we get sent angels, and I can actually see angels. And
Okay.
I had all sorts of amazing spiritual experiences when I woke up.
Yeah.
Um, so it comes to people in different ways, but it just helps you all the time to have just to have faith that there is something bigger than us that is looking out for us and helping us, and is always reaching out a hand and waiting for you to just go towards it, really.
Mm. Yeah. It is. It sometimes it's very inexplicable. You kind of look
Yeah.
at it. I always sometimes I see signs, and I can't just help but laugh and thank the universe, for whatever, because it's just it will come to you in the most craziest way, that you never expected. And there were many times throughout that, just after that period when I started to get better, where I would run to the gym and I would just kind of like look up at the sky and just thank the universe just for
Yeah.
being there. I would just say thank you all the time. It was very much that was
Yeah.
around the time I started doing a lot of gratitude meditations, and I think that really
Yeah.
changed the game for. Well, I don't think I know it changed the game for me in many ways. And yeah, it's just all these little tricks and these little tools that you have that you can utilize, that really you know I know why, but I say I can't believe that it's not taught in school. Like, I mean, why it's
Yeah.
not, but imagine life could be so different if the school system was different. That's another topic for another time. But
I think you're completely right, because I used to teach in before this all happened and we got shut down. I used to teach groups, and they would start coming to me at meditation level. So I'd teach them meditation first, which was a
mm,
way to help them connect to the universe. And then after that, we would go on to learning to meet our guardian angel, and then our archangels, then spiritual law, and then on to ascension. And the thing I always used to say was, when you connect for the first time to anything, whether it's God or an angel or just the universal flow of energy, it will be profound. And you can't explain it. There's no words. But when it happens for you, it's like, whoa, now I really get it. And it changes your life completely forever.
it does, yeah.
And you can't explain it to anyone. You have to show them what they need to do in order to experience it. But when they do have that experience, they can't put it into words. It's just so profound. It's just this
Mm,
sense of always being protected and knowing that from that moment on, you're going to be okay.
yeah. I kind of liken it to there was this period of time where you could feel it. You can obviously feel it. I was just walking down the street or something, and I'm just like, I just feel connected now. I just, that's all I could say about it. I just feel this connection to the universe that I've never, ever experienced. And then because it was quite new, sometimes you forget about it. It's like sometimes you forget about the powers that you have. Like I had a whole
Yeah.
pile of crazy law of attraction experiences around that time when I started to wake up. And I was like, wow, I actually made this happen, and I only just visualized it yesterday, and it was
Yeah.
crazy. But
Yeah.
then you kind
Yeah.
of forget about it for a while, because you you're used to the old paradigms. The old paradigms are still there. You're kind of just breaking them down, and
Yeah.
it, because I had 30 years of programming more, of pre-programming, right? So we're always, these paradigms are so strong, they're ingrained deeply into our mind that it, sometimes you do forget about the power that you have, but then you get a reminder every now and then, something just drops into your lap, an opportunity or
That's
something,
right.
and then or
Yeah.
some money or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
a new connection or something, and or whatever. And yeah, it's just a gentle reminder that you are well protected and taken care of, and also that you do have this power that you may have forgotten about, and like, you have the ability to manifest anything you want. You just got to believe it and take some actions to make it happen.
Well, that is actually the journey of life, actually, what you've just described, is that when we're born into this level that's called Earth, we don't remember that we are spirit first and foremost. We don't necessarily hear what our soul is saying to us. And part of the reason why we are here is to remember that we're soul and spirit first. And so the journey through life is trying to get us to that point of awakening, so that we can connect back to what we always knew was there before we sort of came to Earth. So before we came to Earth, we were connected to God and the universe. Then we get born into Earth and we forget. And the process of being on Earth is about remembering and having that experience again, so that we can then remember who we truly are, which is that we are essentially spirit first.
Yeah. I may just ask you one